Hello everybody, it's ARIS-Komuniszt, and today I'm doing a political video where I'm going to read a passage that I've written about Constantism and Variablism. One thing that world poverty could be heavily attributed to is the idea of what Mutualist-Beneficialists call the power variable, to help disprove the common conception that communism is in itself never a possibility. If we take communism by its truest meaning, absolute equality in which everyone takes what they need and gives out all they can, the very concept of greed has to be almost entirely removed. If a greedy person were to live in a communist society and take way too much as societally expected, that could be very detrimental to the society and could lead to a lack of food or resources. So as we have seen, greed is the killer of communism. This is very much backed up by the situation of the Chinese communes, for instance, where cadre corruption was rife, and as a result there was hierarchy established, and the society was therefore unequal. One could assume that greed is human nature in consequence, but then I ask you again to look at the egalitarian societies at the beginning of humanity, of what Marx would label primitive communism. Egalitarianism and collectivism could thrive there, so why can't they thrive now? Many would say that they were only put to use there because the situation needed them, and that has an element of truth to it, but to argue it isn't just as necessary now, with 3 billion impoverished, 1.3 to 1.5 billion in extreme poverty, 1 billion children in poverty, it's a heartless argument. We can safely assume that egalitarianism and collectivism were just human nature to the people of this time. The following question, therefore, is most obviously what has changed, and to that a mutualist-beneficialist would say that it is the introduction of the so-called power variable that has been present in feudalism, capitalism and socialism. Whilst power and money can be gained and lost by doing various actions, be it selling something, employing someone or running in a leadership race, there will always be someone who is on top of society, power rich, and as power and wealth is relative, there will be someone power poor. To be in poverty, whether it be monetarily or in reference to other forms of power, is something that is naturally difficult to live in and is often a battle for survival. And therefore, in any society with a power variable, greed has to come to use as a survival strategy, either to gain power or to consolidate power by forming segregated classes that can then be exploited so that this divide continues to become harder and harder to bridge. This greed soon becomes part of the societal mentality, as children have to adopt greed to stay on top, as if life were purely survival of the fittest. We label any society provoking this mentality variablism as a result. After establishing that greed and power variability must be kept away entirely from anyone who would thrive in a communist society, mutualist-beneficialists would vouch for Constantism instead of variablism for anyone who is to live in a communist society someday. Constantism is the opposite of variablism. It is what is practiced in communism and what must be used in the other shut. Constantist societies would not have a power variability. Instead, no action they commit will increase their power. Everyone would be equal in every sense at every time. This includes personal power and political power, whilst economic power would not exist due to currency not being necessary in a communist society. Personal power equality would mean that everyone would be able to do the same amount of things regardless of how much they can pay, their gender or ethnicity, or the choices they make. Political power equality would have to manifest itself as a completely direct democracy, absent of political hierarchy and explicit leadership, where in theory anyone would have the ability to propose or vote on laws. This would ultimately be created by MBUK setting up and sponsoring a small and manageable Yava Shat, which would be strengthened by beneficialism. It would ensure that the mutualist children of the Yava Shat do not fall into greed, which would bring down its communistic structure, unlike in Marxist processes where the variablist nature of socialism led to political greed, and therefore was incapable of creating successful communes, or a communist society. The only way to extinguish greed is to make there no possible gain from it.